this computer. Great. And I know that in general, there's people who really struggle, maybe not those of us who come to classes, right? But there are people in the community who struggle with understanding what's the big deal, especially when it comes to the other fasts. You know, this is one of 4 fasts related to the Beit HaMikdash. Does anybody know the other fasts that are related to the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash? You guys can unmute yourselves whenever you want, and you can chime in and talk and ask questions. I'm a very open class. But the other fasts would be Som Gedalia, Asara B'Tevet, Yud Zayin Tammuz, and Tish'a BeAb is like the 4th and strongest fast. Okay, so Tish'a BeAb is very serious, and thank Hashem we have the SCA today that gives us access to so many classes. But 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't as easy. What I want to do is basically take us a little bit back and talk about what's going on with Tish'a BeAb. What does it mean for us? And the name of my class is A Homeless People. And the word homeless might be hard to swallow because what do you mean? I'm not homeless. I have a beautiful house, Baruch Hashem, in Brooklyn or in Deal, right? I have everything that I need. I have my home, I have my school, I have my friends, I have my family, I have my stability. I'm not a homeless person. And you as an individual, you're not a homeless person. But as a people, and when I say people, I mean a nation, we are homeless. We're living in a land that's not our own. And for a reason. This day is a day in which we're supposed to really feel that almost kick in the stomach of the fact that we're not home right now. And so I want to explore this idea of home a little bit and talk about what it means to be home and what it means to not be home. And also we're going to look into Torah and we're going to see different examples of people who were kicked out of their homes. And we're going to look at why we were kicked out of our home and how maybe we can get ourselves back there. So that's going to be like the very quick 20 minutes of this class. Okay. So if you want to unmute yourselves, what I'm going to do on my next slide, what makes a home? Okay. Now I have some stuff hidden around here on the slide, but I want to hear what you guys have to say and we'll see if I thought of the same things that you did. But essentially what makes a house into a home, right? What makes a home homey? What makes something home? So you could give me adjectives, nouns, but call it out. Caroline, I don't hear you. Anybody want to chime in something? Are you guys able to unmute yourselves?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Grace, what's up?
I think a home is like a place where you feel safe.
Beautiful. Safety. Great one. Mine's up there. Safety. Good. Anyone else? Okay, let's click around. Let's see what I got. Okay. So a home means family. Now, of course, you could have family also not in your home, right? But most of the time, feeling home is feeling family around you, feeling safe, like what Grace said, right? Feeling safety, feeling like it's your place where you can escape from any danger, from any threat, and you go home, right? How many times do we feel uncomfortable in a situation? We say, I just want to go home, right? What are we saying? We're saying, I feel safe at home. Feeling welcome, feeling like no matter what's going on, even if I got in a fight with my mom, or even if I did something not so great, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, it's still my home. I'm still welcome here. Okay. Refuge. Refuge is the same idea as feeling safety, meaning I have a place to go where I can be saved from any threats or dangers outside. I feel protected. This is an important one, right? The freedom to be yourself. Hopefully, all of us feel that in our own home, right? Sometimes you go to school and you might feel, I hope you don't feel this way, but it does happen. You might feel like you don't fit in, like you don't belong, like you can't really be yourself, or you have to try and be like other people or like what they like and do what they do. But when you go home, it's almost like you get to take a breath and you say, oh my gosh, okay, now I can just finally be myself. Okay? Acceptance, being accepted, being loved for who you are, feeling comfortable in your own home, going by your rules. I mean, you guys are a little young, so you still have moms, right? And dads who are going to make the rules for you, but it's your family rules and by your values, right? In your home, you're living by your values and the way you want to live. Okay. And so these are the things that really make a home, so having a home, so important, right? It's a place where you as a human being can thrive and be fully yourself because you have all of these necessities. You're free to be yourself. You're welcomed. You're loved. You can go by your rules and your values, right? If I was living in, let's say, in a dormitory, right, in a college dormitory with other people, and I was keeping Shabbat and no one else was keeping Shabbat, that's a very difficult place to be. People are turning the lights on and off. They're unplugging my blech, let's say, and it makes it very hard for me to live. I feel like I'm stuck. I'm in a jail. I can't even go to the bathroom because it's pitch black in there, okay? So being home is the reason why we feel so safe and so good being home is because of these different aspects of home that I spoke about, okay? So now, why is it difficult to not live in your home? And I give this example when I'm talking about Chanukah. Now, if you don't know, the story of Chanukah happens when Bnei Israel are actually in Eretz Israel, so they are home. But the funny thing about the Chanukah story is that they're not ruling themselves. These people are ruled by a different government, by the Roman government, the Greek Roman government, right? And so what's the big deal? They're home. They can do whatever they want, right? But the example I usually give is, let's say your parents go out and they get a babysitter, right? And the babysitter tells you, let's say she's a mean babysitter, okay? And she tells you, you're not allowed to get out of your room. You have to ask me if you have to go to the bathroom. You can't go to the kitchen past 6 o'clock. And all of a sudden, this babysitter is making rules for you in your own home. So you're like, what are you doing? It's my house. And she's like, well, I'm the boss. That's a very tough place to be in also. And we feel similar things when we're not in our own home. Why is it difficult to not be home? You have no stability. We could be kicked out at any point because it doesn't belong to us. Okay? You go to your friend's house, let's say you overstay your welcome. Okay, at some point it's time to go home. You cannot fully be yourself because this place doesn't go by your rules and they don't share the same values. You can't make your own rules. Nothing really belongs to you because it's not your home. You're a guest. You're a guest. You cannot fully live by your own values. The things that you hold important, other people might not hold important. So you might not be able to fully take care of those things because you're not home. And many times not being home means being distanced from your family. Okay, so now let's look at Torah and talk about different places where people left their home. So I want you guys to unmute yourselves for this one. But let's think of different examples, either where someone left their home on purpose. They left their land because maybe something bad was happening in their land. How about when someone got kicked out from a place where they lived, got sold to another place, chose to leave? We could start with Bereshit, right? The very first person on earth. What happened to the very first person on earth who lives in Gan Eden? He gets kicked out, right? Adam Harishon gets kicked out of Gan Eden because of his chet. What does Hashem say? Your home has certain rules that you have to live by. And if you don't keep those rules, you can't be here. Okay? We have other examples. If you think of something while we do this, please shout it out. I'd love to hear from you guys. Adam gets kicked out of Gan Eden. And what happens? He now has his punishment of having to work the land. Right? Okay.
I have one.
Yes, Marlene.
When Moshe runs away to Midian.
Oh my God, I didn't even add that. That's a great one. Moshe runs away to Midian. Thank you, Marlene. So why does Moshe run away? Because he feels like he did something bad and that he won't be accepted in his home and he's going to be a criminal and they're going to look at him badly. And so he leaves. The interesting thing with Moshe is that I think he's also having a little crisis, right? Is Egypt really his home or not? But yes, he does run away from his home and he kind of becomes a different person when he's not home. We see Yosef, he gets sold to Egypt from his brothers, right? They're jealous of him. They hate him. They throw him in a pit. They end up selling him and he ends up going down to Egypt. He ends up having a pretty okay life, but he hasn't seen his brothers and his father in years. And he has to take on a whole new persona, right? So if not Pa'aneach, he's a completely different guy. He can't really be who he is. He's in disguise, okay? We have Hagar and Ishmael are kicked out. So there might have been a good reason for them to be kicked out. But what happens? They're in danger. She thinks the baby's going to die. It's a scary situation. She's wandering. Elimelech and Naomi and Megillat Ruth, right? They choose to leave their homes. And if you learn Megillat Ruth with me, you'll know that immediately they get punished for this, right? Elimelech dies. His sons die. And that's Hashem's way of saying you shouldn't have left your home. You should have stayed and tried to make it work. Okay, Abraham is told to leave. Now, this is interesting. Abraham thought Ur Kasdim was his home. This is where he lives. And Hashem says, no, this is not where you're really supposed to be. You're really supposed to be in this other land. Come, let me show you. Now you have to leave. Now you have to go home.
Doesn't Yaakov run away?
Very good. Yaakov leaves due to a hunger, right? There's a Ra'ab. Yaakov leaves. We also had Abraham leaving Canaan due to a hunger. And then after Yaakov leaves, you have 70 nefesh that go down to Egypt. And what happens because of that, right? Ultimately, all the Jewish people become Peru ve'yishtitzu ve'yirbu ve'yatzmu b'me'od me'od ve'mala'u ha'aretz hotam, right? Is that the pasuk? The pasuk is that they basically filled up the whole land, and now they are essentially an Egyptian people who become slaves. And we see a pattern from all of these different scenarios that not being home means something for you, right? Either you're going to be a slave, or Elimelech is making the wrong decision and he's passing away. Hagar and Ishmael, they struggle. Yosef, he can't be fully himself. Adam now has, instead of being in paradise with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, now he's living in a real world where he has to work, right? All of these different instances of not being home show us the importance of being home. But not only the importance of being home, but the fact that in order to be home, you need to deserve it. You need to deserve it, and you need to act properly, and you need to make sure that whatever the rules of that home are, that you're keeping to them pretty much, right? I said before, you can do something bad, your mom will still let you home, of course, right? We have room in our home to still work it out and to still sometimes not be perfect. But has there ever been an instance where people have gotten kicked out of their homes? Sure, we might not know that because we're great, Baruch Hashem, right? We respect our parents and we follow those kinds of rules. But in the world, if you have a child who's consistently not obeying their parents, or sneaking out at night, or cutting class, or doing things they're not supposed to be doing, the moms and dads can say, you're not allowed back home until you start to follow my rules, right? Being a part of this home means following the rules of this home. Did you ever hear that? My house, my rules? That's a phrase. Yeah, Carol's like, yeah, my house, my rules, right? If you're going to live in my house, Camille, do you have a story about that? No? Okay, my house, my rules. So, hi, Sophie Katan, I miss you. Okay, so this is why it's so important for us to recognize that being home is, it's a pleasure to be home, but it's also something that we have to deserve almost. We have to earn it. We have to earn the right to be home, okay? So now the question is, why do we need a homeland? Why do we need a homeland? Why can't we just live anywhere and be perfect anywhere and grow anywhere and be ourselves anywhere? And the hint is in the name of a human being or a person. How do you say person or a human being in Hebrew?
Adam.
Adam. Hi, Lenore. How do you say land in Hebrew?
Alright.
What's another word?
Adama.
Beautiful. Human beings are made from the earth, right? We all know this from Bereshit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes earth. Sorry, someone called my phone in the middle. Resume share. Here we go. Sorry, let me do that again. Okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually takes earth, and what does he do with it? He forms a human being from that earth, and now human being is human, made from earth. And so what that means for us is that we are deeply connected. Oh, let me share my screen again. We are deeply connected. Human beings are made of earth, which means that almost we need an earth in order to fully be ourselves. I see Sophie Katan raised her hand. What's up, Sophie?
Oh, I was gonna say something for like the examples with like Abraham, like all those like
Oh, of the people who left their homes? Yeah, you can throw one back in there. What's up?
like Cain, after he killed Hevel, he never had a home and like had to run like had to keep on moving.
Perfect. Beautiful, right? What was his punishment? Na ve'na tiyeh ba'aretz. You're going to be a wanderer. You're not going to have any stability, any place to really be. And that's very hard on a person to not have any place to go. All right. And if any of you have siblings living with you in Deal, let's say an older married sibling, like I'm living by my mom in Deal, it's hard. I don't feel like I'm home. It's my mother's house, but it's not my house, right? I'm so lucky, but at the same time, it's like I'm living with other people. So if any of you are living with other people, you might feel this too. Feels a little funny. Everyone feels like they're a little bit on edge, or you can't fully do what you want to do because there's other people around you. Okay. So why do we need a home? Because we're made up of the earth. So we need a land. We're part of it and we need to be one with it. It's almost like we need to reunite with the land. It's the only way that we could fully be who we are. when we reconnect with the land. And so I have a little food for thought here. Why are so many mitzvot reliant upon us being in the land? We have so many mitzvot that are connected to being in the land. And what does that mean? That means that for us to really fully connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to live lives of Torah, you have to be in the land, meaning we can't only function wherever we are in the world. We need to be in our land, which of course I'm talking about Eretz Yisrael, in order to be the full beings that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. And we even know this with every berit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives to all of the avot. What is every berit? Two things, land and sons. Aretz and banim. Every berit includes aretz and banim, right? Because those are the things you need to be a people. You need to keep growing and keep having children, and they need to be in the aretz. Because if they're not there, it's like you're only half of yourself. Okay, so the question becomes, why aren't we home? Why aren't we in our homeland, right? Well, we have a homeland. Hashem gave it to us. Yeshua conquered it. Took us 21 years. We conquered it. We divided it. We settled into it. Why aren't we there? And there's a whole long history, really, of why we're not there. And the focus of my class is not why aren't we there. But if you went to other classes, you might have heard different reasons. Historically, what happens is the Beit HaMikdash is destroyed. Why is the Beit HaMikdash destroyed? Now, you might have heard any reason like sinat chinam, baseless hatred, right? That people hated each other. Or the fact that we were violating different averot. We were doing gilui arayot, shvichut damim, avodah zarah, and not keeping shemitah, which is so interesting, right? Shemitah is connected to the land. You're not going to take care of the land's going to kick you out. Okay? So that's a whole separate discussion about why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. But the general idea of this is the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because Hashem said, you don't deserve it. You're not doing what you need to do in order to be able to stay here. And so if you can't be your correct self, then you don't deserve to be in the home. And that's a very hard pill to swallow because now we're here in Galut for 2,000 years. And I'm actually going to show you a crazy, crazy link right now of all the places where the Jewish people were expelled from throughout history. You might have learned about the Spanish Inquisition. We were kicked out of Spain, or we were kicked out of, the Middle Eastern lands that we were all in, Syria, Egypt, whatever it was. But there were so many more instances of being kicked out of our land. And it really goes to show that once we lost our Beit HaMikdash and our Eretz Yisrael, we really were never able to fully settle anywhere else. Every single other place that we went to was temporary. We were guests there for a short period of time. And after a short period of time, the people who lived there said, you guys are annoying. You guys are bothering us. You're not allowed to be here anymore. Sorry, time's up. And we get kicked out. Let's look at that in a minute, okay? A little bit of history on the two Batei Mikdashim. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to keep clicking around. Okay. All right, so we have the two Batei Mikdashim. We have the two Batei Mikdashim that were both built in the same spot. They were built, actually, the first Beit HaMikdash by Melech Shlomo, which you'll learn about in Nevi'im, hopefully. I forgot what grade you learned that, but before you graduate, right? And then those of you who go to Barkai. Carol, what? 7th grade, Carol? 8th grade? 8th grade. Great, okay. So you learn about the building of the Bayit Rishon by Melech Shlomo and how it is later destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, Melech Bavel. You might have heard his name. He's very popular, right? Bavel was a very big empire. It took over most of the continent of Europe, and Nebuchadnezzar, he comes in and he pulls people out in 3 different phases. First, he takes all the people into Galut, the important officials, and then he takes the rest of the people, and then he takes like the stragglers, the poor people, and the other ones who are left. And we know this from Purim, right? From Megillat Esther. We know that Mordechai is one of those people who was taken out of Eretz Yisrael, and he was put into Bavel, which at the point of the story is now called Paras. It was taken over by Achashverosh, and it was called Paras and Madai. Okay, so he comes in, he takes the people out slowly, and in the year 586 BCE, burns the whole temple to the ground on the date of Tish'a BeAb. Now, 70 years later, they start rebuilding the temple. It takes a little bit of time to get the temple fully finished because people kept stopping it. Finally, it's rebuilt. It's later destroyed 500 years later by Titus, and the Romans. So this is after the Chanukah story, right? In the Hanukkah story, we have a little victory. We won. We regained control of the Beit HaMikdash. We were so happy about it. We lit the menorah, but that doesn't last forever. Eventually, we get conquered by the Romans, and it gets fully destroyed. And this is what's happening on Tish'a BeAb. And let me just show you this clip because it's so crazy. I was going to try and copy paste it from Wikipedia, but it was really too long, right? There's a Wikipedia page that shows all the expulsions and exoduses, the galuyot of the Jewish people. Let me check my crazy short time. Okay. The galuyot of the Jewish people through time. Now I'm just going to scroll through the list, but this is starting from the BCE, meaning before the year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to year 2020 that we're in. There were 3,000 years to the world before this, right? And those years count down. I don't know if you know the BCE times, but basically we're kicked out of Shomron, right? This is the 10 tribes. Then here from Ashur, okay? Then we keep going, Bavel. Then we have Purim. I can't even read all of them because there's so many, but look at all the years where we're being kicked out. We're kicked out of Egypt, okay? We're kicked out of all of these different Middle Eastern countries. The Crusades come. We're kicked out of Bavaria. We're kicked out of Italy. We're kicked out of Hungary. We're kicked out of Switzerland. We're kicked out of Austria. Look at this. Kicked out of Spain. Kicked out of Portugal. On and on and on and on, all the way to modern times. In Nazi Germany, what was happening at the Holocaust? We were being taken out. They didn't want us to be there, right? The Jewish people were being kicked out of lands until this very, very day, okay? And so that begs the question, how do we get back home? What do we do to get back home? Now, the focus of this class was not what do we do to get back home, but we're still going to answer that question in a word or two. And essentially, what we do to get back home is Teshuvah. Is we have to change our actions and we have to change our behaviors in order to merit being able to be in our homes. Let me just get that, okay? And so Rambam explains that when he's talking about this fast. He's saying, what's the point of the fast? The point of the fast is not just for you to torture yourself for no reason. It's for you to take away all the distractions and to say, wait a minute, who am I? What am I doing wrong? And how can I fix myself in order to now be able to go home and say, Hashem, I worked on it as an individual, and as a nation we worked on it, and we're ready to come back home, right? And that's the goal of Tish'a BeAb, is that every year Hashem is giving us another chance to dig deep into ourselves and to say, look at what you did, look at where you are, and fix it so that you can come back home. Hashem is begging us to come back home. He's dying for us to come back home, right? It's not fun for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to look at us here in other lands struggling and being kicked out. We're his people. He gave us a home because he wants us to be there. But like any parent, he has to wait for his child to learn on their own and to make the right decisions on their own. And as HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our father, he's saying, okay, I'm waiting for you guys. I'm giving you the opportunity. Here's the fast day. Take it. Make it meaningful and do your proper teshuvah. And inshallah, we should all be home. And Tish'a BeAb next year should be a chag where we're all in Eretz Yisrael together. And we can all no longer have to fast this anymore because we're finally going to have fixed the issues that caused us to be here. And inshallah, instead of being homeless, we should all experience a homecoming, a coming home from Galut back to Eretz Yisrael very, very soon. Shana haba b'Yerushalayim to all of us, right? And here I have a little bit more of why we need Eretz Yisrael as our home if you want to read it, but I know that my time is pretty much over because it's 1:56. So I thank you guys for coming, and I hope you can continue going to other classes today and really exploring this idea of why we're in this position and why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed and why we're so longing to be home in Eretz Yisrael. I also have a really cool clip that I didn't have time to show. It was 7 minutes. It's a cool clip about the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash and how Bavel did it and how they made a siege and how they entered. So if anybody wants to see it, you can totally email me right now on the side and I'll send you the link because it's a really cool visual to understand all the different fests and what happened on each day, right? They went around the siege, they broke down the walls and all that. So I wanted to show you that, but I know I didn't have time. But anyway, guys, my class is up for now. They're kicking me off at 1:55. And I think there's another class for you guys now around 2 o'clock. So I'm going to stop the recording